Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Military Mind, bringing you news from the front lines. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Russia is demanding that Ukraine formally surrender all of the Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions, including areas currently under Ukrainian control, as a precondition for any ceasefire agreement. Western and Ukrainian officials warn that Moscow's demands are escalating. Sources close to the negotiations are reporting that the Russian delegation has now threatened to expand its territorial ambitions to include the Kharkiv and Sumy regions. Now, analysts says this is a strategic move, suggesting that if Ukraine agrees to a ceasefire under Russian terms, the Kremlin may use that opportunity to push for even more territory in future talks. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, fighting continues along the Russian-Ukrainian border, particularly near Tilkino in Russia's Kursk region. Despite repeated claims by the Russian military that the area has been fully and heroically liberated, Ukrainian forces appear to be maintaining offensive pressure, with reported attempts to breach the border in the Glushkovo district. Now, in eastern Ukraine, Russian troops are said to be intensifying operations in the Pokrovsk sector, engaging in so-called flag-raising missions, symbolic efforts to signal territorial control. Now, moving to the Middle East. In the Gaza Strip, Israel continues its anti-terrorism operation. Palestinian officials report that overnight and early morning, airstrikes have killed at least 60 people across the territory. Several of the attacks, they say, resulted in particularly high casualties, with the deadliest strikes taking place since the early hours of Tuesday morning. Meanwhile, tensions are also escalating along Israel's northern border. According to a Saudi news outlet, an Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon has killed a Hezbollah operative. Now, earlier reports from Lebanese media indicated that a motorcycle has been targeted and that one person was killed in a strike. The Israel Defense Forces have not yet commented on the incident. Meanwhile, China is getting ready to launch its first drone mothership next month. It's essentially a drone that launches other drones. Its name, Zhoutian, which translates to Nine Heaven. Now, the first flight is scheduled for June. This aircraft can climb up to 15 kilometers, higher than commercial airliners, and has a range of 7,000 kilometers. That's roughly the distance from Beijing to London. No landings, no pilots, and a whole bunch of drones on board. So why does the world's biggest army need this? Well, because modern war isn't just about tanks and soldiers anymore. It's about technology, especially drones. Now, this flying drone carrier can approach a conflict zone, release a swarm of mini drones, and stay safely out of harm's way. Now, think of them like mosquitoes over a campsite. One, no big deal. 100? Now that's a problem. And if the enemy has air defense system, they'll be overwhelmed. Too many targets, all of them too fast and too small. So what makes it different from other drones? Well, China has already built large drones before, but Zhoutian is more like an aircraft carrier in the sky, without the ocean and without the people. It has 8 weapon hardpoints, like 8 arms on a master chef in a kitchen. It can launch reconnaissance drones, attack drones, communication jammers, whatever the mission requires. Now, this means China can now conduct operations far beyond its borders. No pilots at risk, no need to launch full squadrons. And that's especially important given the rising tensions around Taiwan. So if in the future you see a headline about a drone swarm over Taiwan, just know somewhere high above, Zhoutian might be quietly hovering, doing its job. A Russian motorcyclist posted a video that quickly went viral on social media, showing another segment on one of the so-called roads of death. Now, this footage features mangled armored vehicles, burned infantry fighting vehicles, trucks, and the wreckage of a convoy heading to the front line. This route probably led to one of the biggest hotspots in the Donetsk region, but instead of advancing, it was turned into another gruesome symbol of Russian losses. Ukrainian artillery, FPV drones, and anti-tank infantry once again made it clear that no Russian equipment will pass unpunished.
Специально для телеканала Русь. Едем на передние позиции.
Against the backdrop of intensifying hostilities and attempts by Russian troops to break through the defense in the east, Ukrainian defenders are not only holding back the enemy, but are also actively preparing for future challenges. In the Donetsk region, large-scale efforts are underway to build a new defensive line, a fortification that should become a reliable barrier to enemy armored vehicles. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reports that a solid defense system has been created with anti-tank ditches, concrete dragon teeth networks of trenches, dugouts, and breached wire barriers stretching for tens of kilometers. Combat engineers and local residents who have joined the effort in the rear are working together on this, so let's see their work. Now for a peek at Ukrainian aviation. New footage released by the Ukrainian military shows MiG-29 fighters of the Ukrainian Air Force dropping precise guided bombs on Russian positions. The strike took place as part of a planned combat mission to support the defense forces in the Eastern Front. The video shows combat maneuvers reaching the target and precise destruction of enemy positions. The targeting was carried out using aerial reconnaissance, which minimized the likelihood of collateral damage and increased the effectiveness of the strike. The security service of Ukraine has now dealt a significant blow to the capabilities of the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. According to confirmed reports, a coordinated strike by sea and air drones destroyed a Russian naval radar station and storage facilities located on one of the gas production platforms that Russia has been illegally using since 2015. The video of the strike has already appeared online, and the footage shows the hit followed by an explosion, smoke detonation, and the complete destruction of Russia's critical piece of military infrastructure. And with that footage, we conclude this edition of Military Mind. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.